Are you training hard, lifting weights, even tracking your calories and macros, but not seeing the results in building muscle and dropping body fat like you wanted? You might be making a very common mistake with something called progressive overload. Progressive overload is the key principle behind building muscle, increasing strength, and yes, even dropping body fat. But most people in their strength training workouts are not applying it properly, and that is why progress stalls. In this video, I'm gonna break down the top 8 mistakes I see people make with progressive overload and exactly how to fix them so you start seeing the results that you are working so hard for. So as always, I want to get right into it, but of course, if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get a notification whenever I release a new video, just like this one every single week. Before I get into the top 8 mistakes people make with progressive overload, let's just quickly summarize what progressive overload is and why it actually matters. Simply put, progressive overload is gradually challenging your muscles over time. Your body adapts to stress. So if you keep doing the same weights, the same reps, the same movements over and over and over and over and over again, your progress will eventually plateau. So why is progressive overload important if your goal is fat loss or body recomposition? Many people come to me with the goal of fat loss or body recomposition. I want to appear leaner. I want to change the shape of my body. I want a smaller waist. I want glutes. I want to see lines in my arms. This is a body recomposition. This is not just weight loss. In order to build muscle and decrease body fat, we need to strength train. And with our strength training sessions, every session should be, I am here to build muscle or at least maintain the muscle mass I have, and then in turn, shed the body fat around the muscles, and that is how we appear leaner and change the shape of our body. You don't need to lift heavier all the time. You don't need to lift like a bodybuilder, but you do need to gradually make your muscles work harder over time. So now let's get into the top 8 progressive overload mistakes and how you can fix them to make sure you are not making any of these mistakes. Mistake number 1, sticking with the same weight forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Why is this a problem? Your muscles adapt to the same stress over time. So if you have 5 and 10 pound dumbbells in your basement that you've been doing bicep curls with for the last 2 years and you're not seeing any changes in your body, it's because maybe you need to go buy heavier weights, or there are other ways you can challenge yourself as well, but doing the same movement with the same weight over and over and over again is not gonna get that challenge that your muscles need to continue to grow. So how do we fix this? You could slightly increase the weight that you're lifting. So if you have 5 and 10 pound dumbbells, maybe you bump up to 12 or 15 pound dumbbells. If buying more dumbbells isn't in your budget or you don't have space for them, you can increase the amount of reps or the amount of sets that you're doing of each exercise in each workout. You can also slow down the tempo. So going back to that bicep curl example, if you are doing bicep curls like this with your 5 pound dumbbells, you can now go slower, 3 to 5 seconds down, 3 to 5 seconds up. Really focusing on that mind-muscle connection and making your biceps work a little bit harder. So again, it's not about lifting the heaviest weight in the gym. It's about gradually making your muscles work a little bit harder than they did last week. Mistake number 2, adding weight but sacrificing form. Why is this a problem? Poor form reduces muscle activation, increases injury risk, and in turn slows down your progress. So going back to that bicep curl example, if you're doing bicep curls like this, swinging back and forth, trying to get the weight up, probably not as effective as choosing a weight that you can keep your core tight, do solid reps up and down, like so, slow and controlled. If you start swinging dumbbells around to try and get the weight up, you're now activating other muscles and you're not isolating your biceps anymore. Or for an example, a very common one I see is people doing a barbell bench press or a dumbbell bench press. They're laying on the bench and say they're doing 100 pounds. You're doing 100 pounds, you're getting down an inch or 2 inches from your chest, full range of motion. Easy, I'm gonna add weight. They add 10 pounds on each side and now their bench press range of motion looks like this. They're barely bending at the elbows, but they can say that they lifted 120 pounds, but it wasn't as effective as that 100-pound lift with the full range of motion and control through the entire movement. Always think quality over quantity. Mistake number 3, not tracking progress. Why is this a problem? If you don't record your reps, your sets, and your weights, it's impossible to know if you're overloading your muscles or if you're just lifting the same thing week after week after week. So how do we fix this? 1, do not rely on your memory. Even if you have a good memory, I feel like it's good practice to keep track. So you can keep track in a notebook, on a notepad on your phone. A lot of my online coaching clients keep track in my online coaching app where I put their workouts. They can write their sets and their reps. It'll show them the weight that they lifted last week so they know kind of what they're going up against from last week, and if they want to add a rep or if they want to add a little bit of weight. It's an easy way to apply progressive overload. So progressive overload, especially if you're just starting out, is not going to work unless you track it. I want to thank today's video sponsor, Element, one of my go-tos for replenishing my electrolytes after sweaty workouts. Electrolytes are so important for so many functions in the body, including hormonal regulation, nutrient absorption, and fluid balance. Sometimes water just isn't enough. And Element has the perfect balance of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. And better yet, 0 artificial sweeteners, no sugar, so no junk. Element can help prevent and eliminate headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, sleeplessness, and other common symptoms of electrolyte deficiency. Right now, get a free 8-count sample pack of Element's most popular drink mix flavors with any purchase. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Michelle. This deal is only available through my link. You must go to drinklmnt.com/Michelle. Mistake number 4, increasing your weight way too quickly. Why is this a problem? Jumping from a lighter weight to a really heavy weight can cause joint pain, muscle strains, and even plateaus, which in turn will cause a mental block as well. When you go to lift next week, you'll be scared to lift that heavier weight if you injured yourself the last time you lifted it. Slow and steady will always win the race, and always listen to your body. So how do we fix this? Especially in your bigger compound lifts, make sure you are doing a warm-up set. A warm-up set could be a lighter weight through full range of motion. And what I use my warm-up sets to feel my body. Feel my body through the movement. How am I feeling? Assess the situation. And then in that next set, I decide what weight I'm going to put on based on what I tracked from my last workout. And then as you're going through your sets, you can slowly add weight. You don't have to, like the example I used in the bench press. If you do 100 pounds and it feels really good, you don't have to jump up 20 pounds. Adding 2.5 pounds per side, so 5 pounds, so going from 100 to 105 pounds, you assess how many reps did I get. If I got 10 full reps again, that's when you take those 2.5s off, you put 5s on, so now I'm doing 110 pounds. And you assess and you go through it that way, and then you know maybe next week your starting weight is going to be 105 pounds, and you slowly build it up that way. Same goes if you're lifting with dumbbells. You go in 5 to 10 pound increments versus jumping from a 20 pound to a 40 pound dumbbell. Mistake number 5, ignoring rep range variations. Why is this a problem? If you're always doing the same rep range, like 12 reps of every single exercise you do, it's going to limit your strength, your hypertrophy, and your endurance development. Different rep ranges are going to train your muscles differently, and again, add a little bit more of a challenge. So how do we fix this? Play around with your rep ranges. So again, if you are someone who has always done 12 reps of every single exercise you do at the same weight, you can start playing around with rep ranges. Let's use that bench press example again. So you did 100 pounds for 10 reps, and you've been doing that for the last 4 weeks, 10 reps of 100 pounds, but you're not really seeing a lot of strength gains. What you can do is go up to 110 and go for 6 to 8 reps instead of that 12 rep range where you're maxing out in that 8th rep, maybe the 7th rep, 8th rep, your form is starting to get a bit compromised, but you're pushing out that last rep. That is where you're gonna challenge your body again in that specific exercise. So looking at rep ranges, 6 to 8 reps, you're usually gonna lift a heavier weight with that goal of building strength. 8 to 12 rep ranges is great and ideal for muscle growth, and 12 to 20 rep ranges is great for muscular endurance, metabolic conditioning, and you can rotate your rep ranges every 4 to 6 weeks. Again, you don't have to switch things up every single workout. My belief is you should follow a specific plan for at least 4 to 6 weeks, and then at that 6-week mark, you can change up your rep ranges, challenge yourself again. Mistake number 6, not prioritizing your recovery. Why is this a problem? Muscle growth happens while we're recovering, not while you're lifting. Without enough rest, you risk overtraining, burnout, and stalled results. So what does this mean? This means if you are someone who goes to the gym 7 days a week and lifts weights weights, but you're not seeing the results you want and you don't feel like you're able to apply progressive overload, you're not getting stronger, and you feel exhausted and burnt out, but you're just going to the gym because someone on social media told you to see results, you have to go to the gym 7 days a week, maybe you need to start incorporating some rest days into your program. How do we do this? You can incorporate rest days, or you can start to rotate muscle groups. Option one, if you're going to the gym 7 days a week, maybe you're gonna cut it down to 5 days a week and implement 2 rest and recovery days in your plan. And rest and recovery days don't necessarily mean you lay in bed and do nothing. You can go for a walk, you can do a core workout, you can do mobility, you can do something else to keep your body moving, but maybe you're just not strength training. And then rotating muscle groups, you could do upper lower splits, you can do push-pull leg split, so that you are working one muscle group and then the next day that muscle group is recovering while you're working a different muscle group. You wanna make sure you're getting optimal sleep. Sleep is so important for muscle recovery, so 7 to 9 hours if you can. I know maybe not possible for everybody, but if you're prioritizing your sleep whenever you can, this will help with muscle recovery. And then of course, a very, very important part of muscle recovery is the nutrition aspect. Making sure you are getting enough protein, your pre and post workout nutrition. Common mistake number 7, focusing on only increasing your weights, not on other forms of progressive overload. Why is this a problem? I kind of already touched base on this already in the video, but many people hear the word progressive overload and they just assume that means lifting more weight. But this is not always true, especially once you get more experienced in the gym, you're gonna reach a point where adding more weight is probably not an option. Like here's an example, a compound movement where you're using multiple muscle groups, it's much easier to continue adding weight and getting stronger. Deadlifts, bench press, squats, those kind of bigger compound lifts, you will always be able to add a little bit more, but you'll eventually get to the point, like for example, on a dumbbell tricep skull crusher. Great exercise for our tricep, but I've been lifting for many, many years and I'm maxed out at 25 pounds with my dumbbell skull crushers. I usually do them at 20 or 25 pounds depending on how many reps I'm doing. I'm not doing 30s, and that's just me personally. I feel like at the 30 pounds, my wrists are just not strong enough to maintain good form, but I can slow down the movement with 25-pound dumbbells and still isolate my triceps and superset it with a specific exercise that's gonna put more burn on my triceps. There's ways of getting around versus always adding weight. If you're not constantly adding more weight to your bicep curl or specific isolation exercises like a lateral raise or a tricep extension, that's okay. So how do we fix this? Kind of like I just explained, more reps, more sets, slower reps, less rest time, supersetting with a different exercise without always having to add weight. And then mistake number 8, giving up way too early. Why is this a problem? Muscle growth and fat loss take a lot of time. So expecting results in 1 to 2 weeks and expecting that your deadlift is gonna go from 95 pounds to 200 pounds in 2 weeks, you're setting yourself up for failure and a whole lot of mental discouragement that you don't need to be put through. How do we fix this? Make sure you're tracking non-scale victories. Strength gains, energy, your posture, your sleep, are your clothes fitting better? And commit to a minimum of 6 to 12 weeks using these practices of progressive overload, slowly increasing reps, increasing weights, and continuing to challenge yourself each week. Take your progress pictures, take your measurements, get on the scale, track your data, and see how things are going then. Don't expect everything to change in 2 weeks. And celebrate the small wins along the way. If your bench press started with a 45-pound bar and that's it, with no weights on the side, and now you're bench pressing 95 pounds, that's amazing. You should be very proud of yourself and celebrate those wins. Nothing beats the feeling of strong, and when you are tracking your progress, or you have a coach like me tracking your progress and cheering you on and helping you challenge yourself, these are all amazing things, and that you're setting you up for long-term health and strength in life. So there you go, guys. Progressive overload is a very simple principle to apply, but it can be tricky if you're a beginner to put into practice. Avoid these 8 mistakes, and I guarantee you will finally start building muscle, boosting your metabolism, and losing fat without endless cardio and restrictive diets. So as always, if you have any questions about progressive overload or really anything else, I'm always happy to help. Leave them in the video comments below. If you need help with your workouts or applying your progressive overload or your nutrition, you can learn more about working with me one-on-one in my online fitness and nutrition coaching program. I will put a link to that program in the video description. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it so I know you're still enjoying the content. And as always, have a great day, guys, and I will see you in the next one.